and welcome. I'm Eric Gao, and here's what happened this week. Working dogs played a big part in the search and rescue efforts following the April 3rd earthquake off Hualien. Our reporter Reese Ayers tells us about the four-legged heroes taking part in that operation.
Picking through debris left by a devastating earthquake. Search and rescue dog Roger is an integral member of the teams, risking their lives to find survivors or bring closure to the families of the victims.
最主要还是搜寻生还者。那因为可能罹难者他的味道介于就是生还者跟就是对他们来讲会有点困惑，所以他有稍微闻一下，然后就离开，又觉得好像是他要找的，他又回来做嗅闻。
It was Roger's powerful nose that helped locate one of the victims killed by a landslide following the 7.2 magnitude quake that struck Hualien on April 3rd. The quake was the biggest to hit Taiwan in a quarter of a century and claimed at least 15 lives. Roger is obedient and has spent years honing his keen sense of smell.
我们会借由一些寻宝游戏或者是冒险游戏，让狗运用它的嗅觉找到那个人，得到奖励品。借由玩具去互动，让它知道说玩具跟人结合在一起是更好玩的。
Now a veteran in his field, 8-year-old Roger is close to the end of his career. Service dogs in Taiwan must retire by the age of 9. But Roger wasn't always meant to land a job in search and rescue. Initially trained as a drug-sniffing dog, he was sacked from that role for being too playful, a reputation he lives up to this day. And Roger isn't the only dog helping with search and rescue efforts. His colleague Wilson, a Jack Russell Terrier, also helped locate several victims. And with the next generation of service dogs already in training, Roger can soon begin his well-earned retirement, having loyally served his country during one of the worst disasters on record. Karma Shu and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
In a bit of good news from Hualien, the number of Formosan black bear sightings in the area has been on the rise for several years, a sign that the animal's numbers are increasing. Chris Gorin tells us more.
Ambling in the woods, this curious Formosan black bear was captured by wildlife monitoring cameras in Hualien County. The township of Zhuoxi is straddled by towering mountains, home to several of Taiwan's indigenous communities and the bears, which are increasingly being spotted here.
拍照的出现频度的增加，以及它出现样点比例的增加，然后透过我们跟居民的访谈，他们的感受黑熊的增加，都是相符的。
Formosan black bears are endemic to Taiwan and are the country's only native bear species. But they're considered endangered, with only about 300 left in the country. Conservationists are encouraged by the rise in sightings, but more bears also means more encounters with people. And now local residents are finding ways to peacefully coexist.
你公寮里面绝对不要放米、罐头啊、菜啦什么剩的哈。
Another issue is traps. Used by indigenous communities for traditional hunting, they can unintentionally ensnare bears or other animals like dogs. Taiwan's Forestry Department says it doesn't plan on banning traps, but is encouraging locals to use less harmful types like snares.
我们不希望黑熊受到伤害，但是我们应该同理村民有他们在农作维护或者生命安全上面的这个担心。那怎么样让这两者横平，这个是我们要努力的目标。
But with debates about the legality of these traps continuing in the legislature, local communities may continue to grapple with striking a balance between preserving their traditions and protecting bear populations. Howard Chong and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Legislators here in Taiwan are trying to help working parents balance childcare and their careers. Tiffany Wong reports on some of their proposals.
Newborns, a dwindling number in Taiwan. The country has one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and last year hit a record low of 5.82 births per 1,000 people. It's an issue the government is trying hard to remedy. Under current employment laws, the government provides subsidies for those taking parental leave for children under 3 to try and ease the financial burden for Taiwan's young working parents. But some legislators say the country's working parents still need more support, and they are proposing that the government allow people to take parental leave until their children are 8 years old. They're also proposing more flexibility in the amount of time that people can take off. Parents are currently required to take a minimum of 30 days off, a period that results in a dock in their pay. Legislators say it makes more sense to allow parents to take time off in day or even hour increments to deal with the unpredictability of parenting.
肠病毒这个问题，就常常花掉家长可能要请个5天，那常常都会是他们一个在劳动条件里边，他们会觉得对他们来讲比较不这么好。
The new proposals also seek to encourage fathers to take parental leave to promote equal participation in childcare for parents, a model legislators say has worked in Japan.
员工超过100人的公司，并且这大概5万家去制定而且公布男性育婴休假的比例的目标，是不是？他这样子才可以彻底的从上而下的带动整个企业文化。
For many here, more needs to be done to improve not just Taiwan's work culture, but its support of parents who are employees.
目前在职场上，在对于就是怀孕的育婴的这个部分，好像还是没有到那么的友善。
我觉得单纯孕育这样可能还好，可能费用的补助会比较实际一点。
What's clear is that under current regulations, there are still a lot of barriers for young adults here to having children.
Along with a declining birth rate, Taiwan's population is rapidly aging, causing concerns for a diminishing workforce and an economic slowdown, making it a priority for Taiwan's government to come up with the correct combination of policies to support young families and bolster the country's future. Justin Wu and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese Hokkien used to be the primary language here in Taiwan, but that language is gradually fading with the rise of Mandarin Chinese. But in the U.S., a college student has built her own app to pass the language down, and more importantly, to keep in touch with her grandparents. Joyce Zeng has the story.
A digital tool that translates English to Taiwanese Hokkien, invented by Taiwanese-American engineering student Talia Huang. Born in California, Huang grew up trilingual in English, Mandarin, and Taiwanese Hokkien, commonly known as just Taiwanese. Distinct from Mandarin, Taiwanese is the only language Huang has in common with her grandparents. Now a college student far from home, Huang worries she's losing this tie to her family.
I spoke English as my most native language, while Taiwanese was just spoken with my parents and grandparents. So after not practicing for so long, I realized that I needed to create some way that could help me kind of keep up my Taiwanese language.
Huang tapped into her coding skills and created Bobaway, a program that takes English text, translates it into Chinese, as that's the closest written language to Taiwanese, and finally gives a romanized pronouncer. Though still widely spoken among people in Taiwan, the Taiwanese language has been losing its prevalence. Linguists say this is in part due to Mandarin's significance on both the local and global stage.
If people want to keep Taiwanese alive, they need to make a concerted effort to do so because it's not the language of commerce or power, especially with China's enormous global influence. It's a language spoken more by the older generation than by the younger, which means there's intergenerational language loss as our elders pass on. So it's particularly important that parents and grandparents pass their language down while they still can, especially at home, which is the most important domain for intergenerational language transmission or transfer.
Aside from connecting with home, for Huang, she says fluency in Taiwanese is a big part of her identity. Living outside of Taiwan, she's even more motivated to share her language with others.
Taiwanese has always been a spoken language, and so creating like a written, like a romanization is sort of kind of like westernization a bit. It sort of loses the original tradition, but I do think that romanization also does help with learning a language, especially for foreigners who are trying to learn Taiwanese.
Huang says she has more ideas for her app, melding her coding and linguistic skills to give an accessible digital push to preserve a language that's such a big part of Taiwanese identity. Eason Chen, Eric Tai, and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Like languages, traditional performances need to be passed down to survive. But there are very few practitioners of the Hakka lion dance left in Taiwan. Our reporter Sandy Chi meets one of the last old masters.
Not the southern Chinese lion dance you usually see at festivals. This is the traditional Hakka lion dance. This art form is also from China, but here in Taiwan, it's on the verge of disappearing. To keep this tradition alive, Liu Wenzhen, one of the lost Hakka masters in northern Taiwan, is doing his best to train new Hakka lion performers of all ages.
67年上来就开馆到现在啦，已经几乎差不多45年的经历了。开馆传授徒弟和武师，有没有45年都没有停过。
Despite decades of dedication to the tradition, for Master Liu, passing on his art is still a challenge. The Hakka lion dance was banned during the Japanese colonial era because it was considered a form of martial art. Performers were forced to train in secret, leading to a drop in the number of practitioners. Today, those who still practice it are mainly from the older generations.
来认识刘师傅刘师傅就说来这边学舞龙舞狮也不错啊，因为我年纪这么大了，想说学这个也学不会啊，对的。 想说好玩啊，真的是好玩，为了身体健康了啊。
玩这个的话，可能就是第一个体力要好，第二个要协调力，第三个还是要体力，再来就耐心。我是当成在玩在跳而已。
There aren't many chances to perform this vanishing art form, so Master Liu's apprentices train for fun, a major feat considering how hard it is.
Many say that the Hakka lion hit is very difficult to perform with. It requires a lot of strength to control, and one can weigh up to 24 kilograms. According to Master Liu, the most challenging part is to be able to hold up throughout the performance.
To address the weight issue, Master Liu developed smaller, lighter Hakka lion hits, making it easier for both younger and older people to handle. The smaller version can weigh just a few kilograms.
现在的年轻人可能越轻越小越好了，那大致可能拿都拿不动了。
And his innovation has been a big help for his younger students from high schools around Taoyuan in northern Taiwan.
刚好也是客家人，然后对啊，又看到学校有这个社团，就蛮有兴趣的。
我是石头，然后因为那个平常也不会去接触这个，看那个别人表演才发现其实蛮累的，还挺喜欢的。
Master Liu has been working with schools for over a decade, but only a few started Hakka lion dance clubs, making it challenging for Liu to pass down his skills to the next generation.
我们一个人的力量真的要推广，真的也很难啦我们现在的时候希望落实到学校去啦。 能够我们的政府对这个汉族文化可以把那个经费补一点给学校让学校来推这个客家诗有没有我们现在你政府不重视我们这个老师傅来帮你们推啊，到我们走了以后真的就会断层掉了，客家诗就会没有了。所以我感觉到我的使命就希望客家诗延续下去。
With a profound sense of responsibility for the tradition, Master Liu hopes teaching the Hakka lion dance will ensure future generations also take up the mantle. Kamashu, Klein Wong, and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
People in Taiwan's urban areas are buying smaller houses. According to a local real estate firm, 19% of all apartments sold last year in the capital Taipei had just one bedroom. That's up 15% from 2019. But smaller homes are on the rise in other urban centers too, with studio apartments accounting for around 10% of homes sold last year in New Taipei and in Taichung. The real estate agency says high prices and less need for room due to fewer children are the main reasons for the downsizing. Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. Visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. And before we go, dive into the underwater world off the Philippines. I'm Eric Gao. Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
At a time when the world feels more divided, a platform for diverse voices to come together. I'm Divi Gopalan. Join the dots. Be part of the conversation. Connected where opinions matter.